Our discussion for today is about onboarding and supporting employer partners. You're going to hear from a region about how they convened a group of employers in person. Look at this, we're doing in-person convenings and then sharing about them. That's very exciting. But you're going to learn about their model, their practices, their insights. They have a ton of resources and pieces to share. So we are going to have time for questions and all those pieces at the end, but please feel free. We're going to be putting those in the chat too. And with that, to get started using the chat, we'd love to know who's here today, but would also love to know, the bigger part of who's here today is what questions might really be top of mind for you as you're thinking about engaging employers, supporting employers. This context is very much engaging employers around opportunities within manufacturing, but the resources, the learnings from today really be applied to any industry area about how you bring employers together, support them to then engage with young people for internships and really all opportunities across that continuum, but how they're coming together and thinking through that. So would love again to know who's here and if there's any questions top of mind so that as our presenter, as they're going along, they could respond to those maybe during the presentation or at the end, but always helpful to know what's really, really important for you all to be learning about. And I'm Heather Penzak. I'm with an organization called Education System Center. I really lead and facilitate and organize this network of IWIN. And I'm going to kind of go through here what that is for you all. IWIN is the Illinois Work-Based Learning Innovation Network. And so we convene on a regular basis, sometimes once a month, sometimes every other month, just kind of depends on, people's even availability to present at times and where the school year is and all that. But we do engage regularly to really talk about innovative models that are happening in work-based learning. We've had this initial focus on virtual. When we first convened back in, October 2020, was that the first kickoff here of IWIN, which is kind of wild to think through. But it really is about engaging in conversations together. I think one of the biggest pros of this network is really how folks connect even within the chat or outside of these sessions or how you're hearing from communities throughout Illinois. We do bring in some national models as well, but we do really try to have a focus on Illinois and the context of what's happening here, both within, our state policies and frameworks, and really just building community across the state where, you might not really know what's going on in work-based learning in Southern Illinois or for northern part of the state or other pieces. And we really try to address that and bring folks together for these conversations that ultimately are going to produce high quality models that are providing that broader and more equitable access, especially as we think about students who don't typically have access to social capital or might not be engaging in the same opportunities and building that within our communities. But that big piece there are those connections, sharing our best practices, our learnings, our resources. We have a whole hub here. I'll share these kind of initial slides in here and I'll put a link to IWIN, but there's a whole hub full of resources, templates, models of what communities are up to, recordings of all our previous sessions. So there is so much on there. I very much encourage you to check it out and see if you can find those pieces that might help you design an experience, implement an experience, enhance something that you already have. A big goal of IWIN is helping us to not all keep recreating the wheel, but actually building from what other communities are doing. And through this as well, thinking about the context of Illinois and where some of those policies or structures might be that barrier and could be addressed. We flag those through here. We talk through some of those here. And some of that might seem like slow progress at times, but all the things that are really being shared through IWIN are very much then within systems, within our own communities, highlighted and brought back up to that agency level to support the scaling and expansion of work-based learning across the state. So very excited for you all to be here. If you're on this session, we typically will add you to the newsletter, which you could then opt out of. But if you wanted to go in there and forward to anyone to sign up, all are welcome to this. We have educators, employers, community-based organizations, all are welcome to be coming together and learning about work-based learning, because work-based learning is not implemented by a single organization, a single person. It very much takes a village effort in order to get these implemented. And so we are really looking at experiences across the work-based learning continuum when we're in IWIN. So again, that resource hub, it's going to have things for you all across this. So from career awareness, when You might just be engaging in some surveys, watching videos, to career exploration, where you're really starting to engage directly with industry professionals, your team-based challenges, which are project-based with an industry mentor, and then moving into your robust experiences with career development experiences, which is a broad kind of bucket term for things like internships, supervised agricultural experiences, school-based enterprises, right? Into then that apprenticeship, those different models there. And if these are the first time you're seeing these terms, they are defined within Illinois through the Career Pathways Dictionary. And this is on the iWin Resource Hub as well. There's countless different recordings and resources there, digging into each piece of this continuum, explaining an overview of it. There's templates there to help you design it. And I'm going to put my email in the chat too, if you ever want to kind of talk through these different pieces and where things might qualify or not qualify as these different experiences. But I am going to wrap what I'm talking about because I am not, the most exciting person that you're going to hear from today. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Cassie, who's going to walk you through their model, and would very much encourage you all. I see kind of going through the chat here if there's any questions, but please do use this chat. Myself and Mary and Josie on here, we were all at the event and we'll be responding to some pieces as well. And I see Dawn's on here too. There's a few folks who are at the event. Hey, Dawn. We'll be responding in the chat as you might have questions, but we very much will have time for discussion after Cassie's presentation. But with that, Cassie, I turn to you.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for thinking this was an important enough topic to give an hour of your morning. We think it's an important topic in our region and we've been working hard on it. So I'm gonna first put my slides in the chat, and then I'm going to start sharing my screen. So I'm the director of Valley Education for Employment System, which is the EFE system that roughly corresponds to Waubonsie Community College district. So communities like Aurora, Oswego, we're in Southern Kane County, parts of Kendall and DeKalb. And Mary Borneman is our office manager and Josie Moran is our CCPE coordinator. And then Heather was also part of this event, and Dawn Curran, who is the new director of GCamp, was also part of this event. So they promised to monitor the chat and kind of answer the questions that came up. And then flag any that don't get answered in the chat for later. So if you have something, you don't need to save it to the end. I'm going to talk to you today about what we did recently on November 18th in partnership with GCamp and Valley Industrial Association. Those are two local professional organizations for manufacturers in our region. This is kind of the culmination of a number of years of work. And I think I'll give you enough today in terms of examples, pre-written materials that you could use, videos, the slideshow, that if you wanted to implement something like this in your region next semester, you could with very little extra time involved. So that's my goal for today. So Heather talked about the continuum. So in the VALEES region, we have tons of business and community partners that are doing lots of activities for our young people in the career awareness, career exploration, and even team-based challenge space. So we have a number of VIA companies and GCamp companies, and then outside of the manufacturing space, we have strong partnerships with our trade unions and healthcare, and we have all these folks concentrating a lot of effort on that left-hand side of the spectrum. And what we're trying to do with this event is, and with Josie becoming a full-time employee with the CCPE grant, is to move more of our business and community partners towards experiences that increase the intensity of their engagement. So internships, on this chart, they're called career development experiences, but we call them internships for the purposes of this event. The other point of this event was to really give people some time to work and get some practical things done in the 3.5 hours, instead of just coming to meetings or to presentations where they're talked at quite a bit, and they leave maybe excited about an initiative like having an intern, but not with any of the pieces that they would need to have done to make that a reality. So again, our two goals are really moving our great partners from the left end of this spectrum to the right, and then giving them the time and the space away from their offices to get some of that work done to make these things a reality. Okay, so obviously you have to start with an invitation, a date. We're planners around here. We don't do things last minute. So this invitation came out roughly the end of September, inviting our business and industry partners. It was also pushed out extensively by GCamp and VIA. VIA and GCamp, while VIA is a membership organization, they saw the value in hosting this event for everyone. So we did not, while VIA and GCamp were sponsors along with VALEES and physically hosted it in one of their large meeting rooms, it was not restricted to members or sponsors of either organization. It was open to anyone. So, you know, if you want to plan something and you don't want to recreate a flyer, there our flyer is. So it was a 3.5 hour event. It was in person. I was not willing to offer it in a hybrid format. I think it takes away from the experience too much from both groups to try to navigate that. Maybe you have been more successful in offering things hybrid and you have more skills around that and you could do it. I just couldn't. It just had to be in person. So when the invitation went out, I think it's important that when invitations go out, at least bare bones agendas go out with them. No one likes to commit their time for something that's ill-defined and nebulous, and, you know, especially 3.5 hours. It's a big ask of folks. So an agenda went out. You can see the agenda is, it's not super detailed, but it just gives the folks an idea of what they're coming for. Super important. Lots of follow-up. As folks registered, VIA handled the registration. So lots of communication between us and VIA. Who's registered? You know, let me make sure I send them an email reminding them. Again, linking the agenda. People like to know what they're coming for, and people really like to see who else is coming to something. So as you get registrations and you are sending follow-ups, and we're so excited to see you, my suggestion is, if you know who else is coming, to tell them, because it kind of piques their interest. Reminders about bringing a device or a laptop or tablet to do work. Like, this was very much a workshop. People did work during it. And so I think there were a couple people that didn't bring laptops. They just kind of missed that in these reminders. And they were kind of kicking themselves because they didn't feel like they were as efficient. We'll get to a little bit later, we'll get to some of the format of the day, but so after VIA and GCamp did a welcome and an introduction and a thank you for everyone being there, they turned it over to me. I did the majority of the talking. I didn't do a lot of talking, and we'll get into why. We wanted people to leave with work done, and if you stand up and talk the whole time, nobody gets anything done. And the other key component that I think was really part of the success of this event was inviting some VALEES regional educators, counselors, and work-based learning coordinators to be there. They sat at a table towards the front. I highlighted their presence, and then I encouraged them to walk throughout the room and support business and industry. Heather was also part of that. So this is the email to my educators that I invited to come, kind of helping them get what their purpose was. And their purpose was really to be positive about teenagers, to help companies understand when maybe they're setting an expectation for a young person too high or too low, and to kind of just support them. So we had a CTE teacher, Mark Williams was there. Katie Johnson is a career liaison at West Aurora. Melissa Wojcicki and Heather Penzak have planned and delivered so much work-based learning over the years. They were both there. And then a counselor, Angie Kuntz from Somonac, was there. She has a lot of good insights into how to support all students in work-based learning and kind of teenagers' development and what you can kind of expect from a teenager. So that's an example of the email I sent to, I mean, obviously I handpicked these people. I wouldn't send this email to every educator in your region asking them to be part of this event. I would carefully select who you want your support team to be. And Josie and Mary were there also. Dawn at GCamp and Kathy Gilmore at VIA. But so carefully think through who your support team is. Because if you have as many people attend as we did, you can't be the one person that works throughout the room to help folks. So this is a slide that I actually started the 3.5-hour workshop with. Obviously, we did introductions, talked about, you know, who was in the room. We did not do every person introduce yourself, say your title, say your company, say why you're here, because we would have spent the first 75 minutes doing that. So I really do believe in building community and people knowing who each other are. I think introductions are important, but you know, for example, if Heather had had all of us on mute and introduce ourselves today, we'd still be doing introductions and probably would be doing them right up until the time this ends. So be mindful of how you get people to know each other without taking up a lot of time. We had table tents that VIA and GCamp had made for each company. And then we had name badges that people were wearing with their name, you know, so the company, well, you guys get it, you're smart people. So be mindful of how you do introductions. Build that community, let people know who is there, but don't spend the first 90 minutes. That's not what people are coming for. I hit this slide pretty hard. I really wanted the tone to be positive and solution focused. I don't know what it's like in your region, but sometimes we can get in meetings and we can, both educators and business partners can do a lot of highlighting of the challenges and the problems. And that's not what this was for. And I just said it, you know, with a big smile on my face, but very like concretely and clear at the beginning. Like, we are not here to talk about the labor shortage. We are not here to talk about how much teenagers use their cell phones. We are here to be solutions focused and design 3 key documents to prepare a company to host an intern in the summer. As part of that, I gave a little piece on 16 and 17-year-olds that this writing is in. If you follow all the links in this slideshow, you'll come across this document. I think it may be like the 3rd page of the agenda. So I did a little analysis. Indian Valley Vocational Center is a career center in the VALEES region. You know, I took the 565 students that are at IVIC and showed people, if you limit your internship experience to 18-year-olds, you limit your pool of candidates to 1/3 of the students at IVIC. And you can read that data. But I would make a plug hard from the very beginning that there are 16 and 17-year-olds that have had a year and a half, maybe 2 years of career-focused instruction. They can do some of this work. Do not limit these experiences to 18-year-olds. We talked, because we always, you know, in manufacturing, it always comes up about, does the Department of Labor prohibit the under 18? They don't. There's some references there. I don't want to spend a lot of this time going over those, but I would be happy to talk to you further about it at another time. We have to get past some of these myths or perceived barriers or things that just kind of people keep saying in meetings. And so I just hit that hard in the beginning, that we were gonna be solutions focused and find solutions around some of these things. I would encourage you to do the same. Be happy, be positive, be excited. So you can see the room set up. VIA had just celebrated their 100-year anniversary as a professional organization. So the decorations were already up. The decorations are not required for this, but you can see folks sitting in teams. You can see the table tents out on the table. You can see me, doing my intro in the front. And then this is the first video we showed. No.
Teenagers are different. They dress differently, they talk differently, they do things that adults have trouble understanding. But the teen brain may have benefits, says Daphna Shahami, a neuroscientist at Columbia's Zuckerman Institute. She thinks that studying teenagers could help us understand how everyone makes decisions based on their experiences and their memories.
Memories are more than mental snapshots we look at every now and then. They guide every choice we make, like what to order at a restaurant, or whom to date or marry. They help us learn from our experiences, good and bad. Teenagers don't have a lot of experiences. Their brains are young. The part that drives them to seek rewards is hyperactive, while the part that puts the brakes on, that gives them self-control, isn't yet fully formed. We usually think of this immaturity as a bad thing. Teenagers are notorious for risky behavior, like smoking or driving fast, or for spending too much time playing video games and trying to get likes online. But neuroscience research is showing that the teen brain may have advantages. It may be wired to learn from experience. We scanned the brains of adults and teenagers as they learn to play a learning and memory game that we developed in my lab. The teens not only did better at the game, but they were also better at remembering random images flashed on the screen that weren't even part of the game. Our scans showed why. In teens, the part of the brain that seeks rewards, the striatum, was communicating with the hippocampus, the part of the brain that helps us store our memories. And teenagers showed more of this communication than the adults did. The teen brains were making powerful connections that helped them learn from their experiences. As scientists, we once thought that learning from experience and creating memories happened separately in different parts of the brain. But research like this illustrates that memory is woven into structures throughout the brain, connected in ways we're just beginning to discover. As students go back to school, it's really worth keeping in mind that learning isn't limited to memorizing facts from textbooks. It's something that happens constantly as we collect new experiences both in and out of the classroom.
So we started with that video because I think there's a lot of really hopeful information in that video, and you can really get your business partners excited around teenagers with that video, right? Their brains are young and they learn from experience. And so I just got really excited and said, what a gift and what a privilege that you could possibly have to give these students experiences that help their young brains learn. And so whether you use this video or a different opening video, I would really encourage you to use something that gives people excitement and hope about what they could do for a young person in their community by hosting an intern. So then, whoops, you don't want to watch it again. So then I introduced very briefly the internship micro-credential platform that VALEES developed with the Illinois State Board of Ed Career Development Experience funding. So all of the pieces I do in this workshop are from this platform. So a business person that doesn't want to come to a workshop could go through this self-paced platform experience and have similar experiences to what I do in the workshop. So I just reminded them that was there, that there were additional resources in the platform that I wasn't going to have time to do in the workshop, just gave them, that link. And then we went on to the first video in that platform. So I'm going to play that for you real quick.
Okay, so you're thinking about taking on a high school intern. Good for you. Maybe this is the first time you've done something like that. Don't worry. This internship micro-credential is designed to help your internship experience go smoothly by reducing the potential barriers before your new intern even shows up for work. In this course, you'll learn about the teenage brain and how to make sure your internship is accessible to all students. By the end, you'll feel more prepared to take on an intern. And as an added benefit, earning this credential is a signal to the high schools in your community that you've done your homework and you can be trusted with students. Taking on a high school intern is an amazing opportunity for your business. It connects you with the local community, builds brand loyalty through positive relationships with youth, and provides employees with that rewarding experience of sharing their expertise with the next generation. For the intern, they're potentially gaining a life-changing experience, an experience that can give them direction in school, inspire a passion for learning, and encourage them to pursue more education. A big part of making an internship successful for both you and the intern is understanding what information interns need when they get started, or even before they get started. And that's exactly what we're gonna do in this course. To earn the internship credential, you're going to create 3 important documents. The first is a detailed job description. Interns often feel they don't have a good understanding of what the job is like before they get started. You may have something in mind for them, but they don't know unless you tell them. Creating a description of the work will help you and the intern make sure you're on the same page and that you both have the same expectations. The job description will include daily tasks and projects that students can contribute to, as well as learning objectives and goals. We will also show you how to align your job description with the technical, essential employability competencies, RTEEC, required for internships in the state of Illinois. The second item we're going to create is the orientation plan. Interns might look like adults, but the majority of them have never had a job before. They need to know very specifically where to park, who to call if they're going to be late, what to wear, and when they can use their phone. The orientation plan contains all the important information and ensures that if questions come up, both you and the intern know where to find the answers. Finally, the third document we're going to create is an org chart. Bringing an intern into your company can be very exciting. However, it can also be problematic if you haven't designated someone to support the intern when they're on site. For example, if they complete an activity early and you aren't there, who should they talk to? If they arrive and you're in a meeting, who can help them get started? What if they decide to knock on the door of your boss and ask what they should be doing? The org chart helps prevent these issues by providing the intern with the names, titles, contact information of all the colleagues they can reach out to in these different situations. Having an org chart will help the intern understand how your company is set up and where they fit in the organization. And as you go through this course, you'll have access to articles, videos, exemplars, templates, everything you need to create those 3 documents. At the end, we'll guide you in submitting your final documents on the Learning Design platform, where everything will be evaluated and you'll get a chance to make changes if anything's missing. Once this process is complete, your organization will be awarded an internship badge, and you'll know that you've reduced many of the common barriers interns face. So let's get started.
So that's the intro video that intros the online platform. If a company, if you do a workshop like the one that I'm presenting to you today, and companies come out with those 3 key documents created, they can still apply for that internship micro-credential badge without going through the online platform, just simply by uploading those documents. And I'll kind of get to that at the end. That's not the focus of today. The focus of today is getting companies feeling ready to host interns. This platform is one way you could do that. The workshop I'm describing is another way you could do that. Okay. So after we watched that video, we talked about internship job descriptions briefly. And when I say talked about, like I'm talking for 5-6 minutes. This video is about 2 minutes. It talks about what should be in a job description. I think it was created by an intern. It's also embedded in that online platform. So what I did for each of these kind of chunks of time, so after the intro and the positive set, the positivity, solution focused, kind of setting the stage, we had kind of 3 chunks of time. The job description chunk started with this video, and then whoops, I don't think the internship job video. It's only a minute long. At their seats, they had a copy of the Illinois Essential Employability Skills. So these were printed in advance. And I hope these all look familiar to you. This does. So they had this page, the employability competencies printed in advance and at their desk. And since our workshop really focused on those in the manufacturing, engineering, technology, and trade space, they had this page of competency statements printed. They didn't have the whole, 14-page document. And so I turned it over to them and said, okay, it's time to write the job description now. And so for about 30 minutes, folks worked in teams. They called over those educator partners I told you about that I strategically invited and positioned around the room. They called over GCamp and VIA. They called over and they wrote the job description. Okay, so then as that time is winding down, I'm calling out, okay, we got about 3 minutes. We're going to come back together. We come back together. I ask for a couple people to share some things they worked on. We do that for 5 or 10-ish minutes, and we move on to like the next kind of chunk of the day. So now they've had an intro. They've had a really positive, like, teenagers are awesome. They're great. They are like, what a privilege to be able to give a teenager this type of experience. And now they have drafted a job description. So again, you can see where it's important that people have devices and that you have good, strong Wi-Fi wherever you're meeting. So make sure to check those things before you do anything like this. And then they had the competency statements. So I would, if you're working with more than one industry, hopefully you have like the office staff that can help you like make individual packets, like, okay, this company is coming from healthcare, let's have the healthcare competencies in their packet versus this company that's coming from manufacturing. Those are important to have on hand, and the essential employability skills too. And I did make sure to say when we got to the essential employability skills, kind of what I know I've been hearing repeated a lot around the state, like, they're not soft skills. They're very challenging for some students to learn, and they're essential to workplace. So I did kind of model that language that, I know a number of us have been hearing around the state. So, and I think it's true. I didn't just model it for no reason. So we gave them lots of examples of internship job descriptions that were written for high school interns. So that's important to this. Like, and I said that in some of the invitation materials inviting people to this. And I said that also in the intro. Like, I am not here from a community college or a university. I'm not here to help support you plan post-secondary opportunities. Like, this is a high school event. So folks understood that before they came. So, these were the items I asked them to make sure to have in that job description that they were working on in those 25, 30 minutes. Gave them lots of examples on the second page of the agenda. These are high school internship examples from Grundy Area Vocational Center, who does a very successful summer internship program. This Perfection Servo is a company in our region, in Batavia. They even go so far as to have an internship calendar. So we gave them that idea. This is from their last summer's program, but we gave them lots of examples. People love, I know all of you do too, love to see other people's work and to modify it. And it's really helpful way to get started. They sat there for 25, 30 minutes. A lot of them worked really hard, furiously typing away on laptops and conferring with colleagues. Here they are. This is Angie Coons. She's a counselor. She was called over quite a bit from different companies to get some perspectives on what teenagers are good at, what they're not good at, what they need more support on. So again, I would really think about who the educators are that are going to be there to support you that day. Business and industry teams. These are two gentlemen from Smith & Richardson. We really encouraged people to come in teams. Not everyone was able to, and that's okay. But when we saw singleton registrations, I reached out and said, hey, I saw that you just registered as one person from blah, blah, blah company. We know it takes a team to have a successful internship. So if there's any way you can bring someone else, we really think you would have a better experience. And many of them were able to, a few of them weren't. It's just the fact of the size of their company that there really isn't another person that they could bring that day. So we called everyone back together. We shared some, job descriptions, talked about some, key issues. And then we showed this video on the whole org chart idea, all companies have org charts, but having an org chart for the intern that calls out for the intern who the key people are in the company and what they go to those people for and their contact information. So I'm not going to show this video. It's just a couple minutes. It's in the online platform. We showed it. And then, whoops, I said I wasn't going to show it and then I hit the wrong button. And then we again turned them over to do work, right? So this is really a working workshop. We had these key bullet points on the screen that they could work off of. And we gave them time to start. And we said, this doesn't need to look pretty. You don't need to do this in Visio or some graphics program. This could be like drawn on a sheet of paper for now. This also helps them when they go back. They have a list of people that they need to get buy-in from, right? If I put your name on this org chart as someone that's going to support this intern, I better make sure I tell you that we're opening an internship position up and that a kid's coming. So it's a good document both to have for the intern when they start on their first day or even in advance of their first day. It's also a great document for business and industry, just as like, oh yeah, like these are all the people that need to know, the office manager that hands out staplers and tape dispensers needs to know an intern is coming, and there might need to be a supply order put in before that person comes. So so again, I did the video, talked for a couple minutes. If any of my educator partners in the room had something to throw in on this topic, they did, but we limited our talking and then we turned it over to folks to get to work, and they did. And here they are. They also had fun. See Anna laughing. They were having fun. They weren't just working. And this is Mark Williams, CTE instructor. So we brought them back together. Folks shared about the org chart. You guys can see the pattern here. You've all been teachers at some point, so I think you get what we're doing here. And then we got into what we call the orientation plan in the online platform, what could also be called like the onboarding plan. I am going to show this video because I think you guys will like it. So this is the video that introed the idea of having, a written orientation or onboarding plan for the intern.
Hopefully not too busy today. Yeah. All right, catch up. Hey, how you going?
Yeah, good.
Can I help you?
Oh, it's just my first day today.
Oh, okay. What's your name?
Christian.
Oh, Christian. I'm Daniel. I'm your manager. Are you sure it's today that you're starting? It's not next week?
Yeah, pretty sure it is. It says so in the forms.
Hey, Georgina.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Excited for your first day?
Yeah, can't wait.
Have you had a coffee?
No, not yet.
Let's grab it.
Alright, sorry about your desk not being set up, but yeah, it should be nice and cozy in here.
Okay, so this will be your office.
Brilliant.
Take a seat.
Okay.
So you've got your laptop sorted, and you mentioned you like plants, so we got your little one just
Oh,
there.
thank you.
Separate monitor, phone, all that sort of stuff, and the onboarding is automated online, so it should take you 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll introduce you to the rest of the team.
Brilliant, thanks.
Cool.
Alright, so got the forms. Oh, got the forms for you to fill out. So, just, if you can fill those out and give them back to maybe Erin from HR. Look, just fill them out, and I'll come back. All right.
Okay, so this is our performance management system. In there will be all your objectives and measures, development plan, all that sort of stuff. So there's like lots of automated reminders and statuses, and whenever we have a catch-up or one-on-one, there'll be notes in there so you can remind yourself, okay, that's what we talked about last week, and we'll do those maybe 5-10 minutes every week.
Hey, how'd you go with the forms?
Yeah, actually just still going at it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No worries. I'm just gonna head out to lunch. Keep filling them out, and I'll come back and I'll check on you later.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. Hey. Yeah, I'm coming down now. All right. See you soon. We still going to that place with the barbecue and
Hey Jenny, how you going?
Yeah, good, all done.
Okay, great. I hope you haven't brought lunch because we're going to take you out.
Oh, no, I haven't actually, so that'd be good, yeah.
Okay, great. So all the team will go out and get some food.
Oh, brilliant,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Cool. Let's go.
Okay, so that's a fun little video to just remind people of the importance of this planning. And the importance of this onboarding or orientation planning is, it's even more important when hosting an intern, because this is a young person that likely doesn't have any work experience, and so really needs even more explicit direction and explanation on some of this stuff. And after I showed this video, several of the educators that have planned work-based learning, and then also our high school counselor, did have a few things to add before I turned them over to start writing theirs. Things that I think most professionals would kind of overlook because it is a teenager and this is their first work experience. So they were really key to like reminding business and industry that these are young people that might have never had a job before. Like you might really need to say like, you hang up your coat here and you put your purse, you know. So that was great. So then after they watched that video, we all chuckled about the bad onboarding examples in there. We turned them over again for the third chunk of time where they did work. And again, we had all sorts of linked resources. So these resources are in that online platform. I just pulled them out for the purposes of this workshop. Tons of questions that help folks write this orientation plan and just get really concrete. You know, you have access to all of this, you know, here, like first day at the company, Tennessee Department of Education, their checklist. So lots of resources these folks had. And so we turned it over to them again and had the educator circulate in the room. You can see that happening here. And came back together, shared some orientation planning. This piece really, and actually the sharing of this final piece involved a lot of conversation, a lot of feedback from educators in the room about how detailed, you know, folks should get with this. So that was exciting. So then to kind of close it off, we watched this final video, which is again in the online platform, which I love, and I think you will too. It's the top 10 tips for hosting a high school intern.
Okay, so how can we make sure that our internships are great experiences for both employers and interns? I think the most important thing we can do is to try to plan for the barriers that interns often encounter when they show up for work. In education, we call this concept universal design for learning. Basically, we want to make sure that we consider the wide range of learners that are out there and that we've put enough thought into the learning environment to make it work for everyone. So to that end, we've compiled our top 10 tips for taking on the high school intern. The more you think about these before your intern arrives, the better. So let's go. Tip number 10. Remember, they are teenagers. They don't have the life skills and professional knowledge that adults have. Seriously, their brains are not fully developed. People's brains don't fully develop till they're about 25 years old. Number 9. Make sure they have all the details. Your new intern is going to need an exact start time, a schedule of their first day, parking information. Make sure you tell them where to be, what to wear, and who to go to with questions. This is really important. That's why tip number 8 is make sure they have all the details, multiple times and in multiple different ways. It's like 10, 10, 10. You need to say something 10 times, 10 different ways, and they'll hopefully remember 10% of it. Pro tip, that's actually a good rule for your staff too. Number 7, make the work meaningful, but not critical. Nobody likes busy work, so give the intern a problem to solve, something that would actually be helpful. Just don't give them something that would cause you a ton of problems if it doesn't work out. So solving real problems, just not ones that are mission critical. Tip number 6, give feedback along the way. Interns need more and more frequent feedback than people who have been working a long time. They want to do a good job, but they might be nervous and not sure if they're doing a good job. It's also good to focus positive feedback on highlighting effort, like, I appreciate how long you worked on that. Number 5, teenagers are going to make mistakes. Research shows that having a couple of do-overs or mulligans actually helps form good habits. So let them know ahead of time that one mistake is not going to sink the ship. Tip number 4, know the goals. Not just your goals, but the intern's goals as well. Ask what their expectations are. What do they want to get out of the experience? Studies show that teenagers today are less likely to have had a summer or part-time job. So it's very possible that your intern has never had a job before, and they'll need some help setting up workplace goals. Number 3, it all comes back to learning. If they already knew how to do everything, they probably wouldn't need an internship. If you're not getting what you want out of your intern, it's not the intern's fault. They're a kid and you invited them into your company. They need you to help them see areas they can improve in and what they should be doing differently. Tip number 2, relationships are key. Ask about their day, get to know them. If we don't feel safe, we can't learn. I always like to remember the saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And most people remember their first boss very clearly. I know I do. So these early work relationships are really important and can have a big impact on how the intern perceives the work world. And your number 1 tip, internships matter. Having an intern can be very meaningful. You're giving someone a start on their adult life. Even if they don't come back to work for your company, helping someone figure out who they are and what kind of work they want to do is awesome. It's rewarding to work with young people and give back to your community. So be excited about this opportunity, not just for the intern, but for you and your company too. Okay, so how can we make sure?
So we showed that video to kind of wrap up. So folks have drafted a job description, an org chart, an orientation or onboarding plan. They've been given time to do that. Some of them, because of our advanced communications, had even brought some stuff that maybe they'd worked on a year ago or 2 years ago and never really got off the ground, and they were just adding to that. We showed this video. I mean, how can you not want to host a high school intern after this video, right? Like, super positive close, like, thank you for being here. We are so excited that you want to work with our young people. They're wonderful. We're so excited you want to give them these experiences that will be the first in their life often. Like the video said, some kids won't have had any work experience before this. So whether you use our videos or not, I would just really encourage you to have all the warm, fuzzy feels. And I know if I can do it in a room full of manufacturers who are not always, they're not a room full of social workers. I mean, if I can do that, you can do it too, right? Because it does feel good to watch these videos and think through these things and think about helping a young person. So we closed with that video. And then we had our call to action. So you can't let these people leave without knowing how they commit to you or to your district or to your region and host an internship. So our call to action is to complete this internship commitment form, which asks them for some of the documents they created, and to commit to hosting a summer paid intern in the MET kind of cluster. That's where we're starting. So that's manufacturing, engineering, technology, or trades. You have got to have something they do. Don't let them leave. I really think if you are strategic about your plan, you are going to have a room full of excited, happy because they've got some of the work already done, They're going to feel supported because you had such a great team there from high schools, and they are going to want to go all in. And you can't miss the opportunity to tell them how they do that. And you know, that might look different for your region. It doesn't have to be a form. I don't know what it is for your region. I don't know what your plans are, but don't let them leave without knowing how they commit to you and your students. So I just was reflecting before, you know, this presentation on like keys. I thought it was a super successful event. I know GCamp and VIA, from talking to Dawn and Kathy, have gotten a lot of very positive feedback. We've had at least 8 submissions to host a summer intern. We're feeling very good about the day. And I thought, well, what made it successful? And so I would really say the organization, the advanced planning, knowing who's coming, having table tents and name badges, having agendas, having those handouts at the table, having all the resources built. And I hope that today I've given you a lot of that so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you like what we kind of did. This resource is an example link I've added since. So Kevin Clay is a GCamp board member. When he ran Sandvik's internships, he sent me a ton of stuff. This is what Matt Hurnett created that day. There's some other stuff that, this is what Hugh Bossett created from Midas that day of the workshop. So there's even more resources and examples in this folder, and you have access to it. You only have view access, so you'd have to make a copy of something, but I think you all know how to do that, or if you don't, there's somebody in your office that knows how to make a copy of a Google Doc. Partnership with VIA was a key to this. If you have a partnership with a professional organization that wants to go in on this with you, I would really encourage you to do that. It was more than just them doing the meeting space. I have access to a ton of meeting space on Waubonsie Community College's campus. That's not what it was about. It was about Dawn and Kathy as trusted representatives from this professional organization that they're members of, standing up there with me and saying, like, hey, yeah, we've been talking about this for too long in the region. We now need to take action. And we're so glad you're here today. So if you have any relationships with a chamber, with a economic development group, I would really encourage you to use them. And then in our room full of people, we probably had existing relationships with 70 to 75% of those companies. They'd hosted a field trip. They'd sent a guest speaker to a classroom. So I think that's key too. I think new partners can definitely get excited by this, but to have the trust and buy-in, I would try to have a balance of new and existing partners. Wi-Fi and bringing your device, huge. Like, you've got to be in a room where the Wi-Fi works well and people know how to get on the network. You know, like, make sure that you know how people get on the network and you've tested it. People should bring their devices. We missed a couple people that didn't get that in the reminders, you know, hit that hard. Giving people time to complete tasks. Like, that's how this worked. Like, this was not a Cassie stands up there and yaks for 3.5 hours. I mean, my gosh, you know, people would have revolted. Give people time to work. Be mindful of how much you talk. It's easy to get talking and talking and talking. Be really mindful of how much you're talking. Strategic grouping, asking people to come together. When people were singletons, Dawn and Kathy walked around and kind of positioned like companies together. So if I was a singleton from a plastics company, Kathy and Dawn, because a lot of these were their members, knew them well enough to partner them with like another plastics company, so they would have some common areas of interest. Educators, I mean, this would not have been anywhere near as successful without those educators. CTE teacher, a counselor, several folks that have planned work-based learning in the past circulating, and you have to tell those educators, do not cluster together at the table at the front that you start in. Like, walk the room. They know how to do it. You know, they just need a reminder. And then follow up, follow up, follow up. You have to send follow up. Thank you for coming. Again, here's the commitment form. The ask is to host a summer internship. In our office, we have a CCPE coordinator. I know many of you do. She will be doing increased follow-up beyond emails after the new year, phone calls. Like, you know, we were so excited to have you at the event. Are there any final things you need my help with before you can commit to a summer internship? And that call to action, you have to know what you're asking these people to do, you know, so make sure you've thought that through. And then celebrate, you know, here's many of us that were there that day. A few people had to leave early, so we're missing a few, but I mean, really celebrate. These people gave 3.5 hours of their time. They learned, even if they don't do an internship, they've at least learned more about young people and about the exciting opportunities to do work-based learning in the future. So celebrate. I think we put it on LinkedIn or Twitter. I know Dawn put it somewhere on social media. And again, if you want, so we took pieces out of the micro-credential platform that VALEES developed to do this in-person workshop. Folks can take the documents that they created and create a learning designed account, upload those 3 documents they created in the in-person workshop, and get that micro-credential badge. So that's exciting for some companies. Some companies are like, I don't need a badge to tell me I'm ready to host an intern. I just want to host an intern. So, you know, that's up to them. Just, you know, this excites me. I think this is some of the funnest stuff that we all get to do. And I would encourage you to really show your excitement and make sure it comes through if you do anything like this. So that the companies feel energized to go out there and to have teenagers in their workplaces. Okay, so I'm done with my talking part. I don't know how we should do this, Heather. Should I just try to take questions out of the chat? I don't know. Should people unmute? There's only 3 minutes left. So
yeah, I was going to say, so one, I just want to definitely commend Cassie and their team. It really was a fun event. I know Cassie's saying fun and you're like, sure, it was fun to onboard employers, but like, it really was fun. Like people were laughing, they were collaborating. Like, I think the mix of like, you know, sometimes dry information and also the videos that could be a bit silly at times, right? And even just the stories that people would share. And I really would commend to the fact that there wasn't just a couple of voices in the room talking. Like the people who were there were very encouraged to share and talk. And there were points when Cassie and myself and the other educators just kind of said nothing. And the employers were answering questions for each other, right? And having their own back and forth that we were all there to monitor, but it was very much like the employers talking to each other in a facilitated space by the group, by Cassie and their team. So just, again, a big shout out to you all. I know we have like 2 minutes. There's questions in here. So I don't know if there's maybe one you want to respond to, Cassie, and I could send you the other ones and we could send your responses as a follow-up too. I'll be sending out the recording and presentation as soon as possible.
So I see Angela asked best practices on how a partner can deal with an intern as challenges arise. I don't have anything. I'm confident that Melissa Wojcicki from Yorkville does, because she's been doing so much work-based learning for so many years. I would love, and I know I've talked to Dawn about this at GCamp, I would love for us as this expands to do more professional learning for these companies, either through their participation in GCamp and VIA, through a partnership. But I think these people were really interested in the things that we showed in videos and that educators explained about the differences in teenagers and adults, because it's easy to forget. Like I have a 16-year-old, he's 6'1", he looks like an adult. Like when he walks in a room, it's like, oh, there's an adult. Well, he's not an adult. He's so far from an adult. And if you don't live with teenagers, you don't teach or coach teenagers, it's an easy thing to forget. And so I would love to do more professional learning on that for business and industry partners. I mean, even across the state of Illinois, like how do you handle challenging situations? But I don't have anything right now, Angela. So Mihi put something very interesting in the chat that I think a lot of folks should take and copy out of the chat along with her contact about working on building out high school co-op programs for students interested in diesel in Bridgeview, Aurora, Des Plaines, LaSalle, Rock Island, and Chicago Heights. So Bethany, our plan on the student end is to take all of those that commit to hosting a summer internship and create one common app. This is how Grundy Area Vocational Center does their summer internship program. And so then students would apply through one common app for all of these internships. They would select, you know, I'm applying for like these 2 out of 7. We're going to do some pre-screening and then turn over a list of like the top 10 applicants for each position to the companies. And this will be our first year. We'll probably make mistakes. If you want a good example, I would contact Lance Copes at Grundy Area Vocational Center. He sat down with me and Joe Barbic for 90 minutes early in the fall because we kept talking about doing this, and even if we make mistakes this first summer, I'm okay with making a lot of mistakes. We just have to we just have to get some of this done. It has to start, so. Yes, our online platform is open to everyone. That code, trying to think of where that code is. This code, VALEES_MC, will waive the fee if your company wants to get the little badge. I mean, I don't know, how exciting that is to anyone. We do have a company that has a badge, UMG Dal Medico, created all their docs in the workshop, uploaded them to the site, and earned the badge. That code is kind of like a coupon code if you shop online, and it will just waive the $25, $30 fee.
And Cassie, I'm looking at the questions. I think the only one it was answered in the chat before, but I had a couple of questions again about the background check, which it sounds like that's not a required part.
No.
Okay.
I don't have any, it's never come up with my work-based learning coordinators as a topic. I don't know that any of my schools that organize work-based learning, they don't require background checks for companies. The only time I did hear someone ask about that was in the Ed Pathway programs. So if a high school student is in an Ed Pathway program and they're going down to the elementary school for their practicum work-based learning internship experience, I have been kind of on the periphery of conversations around, will the district want that high school kid background checked to be in that elementary classroom? I don't have an answer to that. That's the only time background checks in any of this have come up for us in the VALEES region. Yep, Caleb. So I have that in this folder. Caleb's asking about, okay. So that folder, if you navigate to, there's a PowerPoint presentation called DOL, February 2018. That's got some good information in it. And then there's a Word doc titled Scaled Down Synopsis, DOL TMA, February 22. That's got some good information in it. Jessica, people bring up insurance too. So I feel like the things that get brought up all the time are under 18, DOL, insurance. This is what I told companies. And if I think this is easier to say to companies that you have an existing relationship with. So there are manufacturers in the state of Illinois hosting internships. Like, it's just true. And they have insurance, and that's just true. And so, if you really want to get in on this and you really want to be part of this to recruit a future workforce, you might have to find a different insurance company, or you might have to pay more, or you might have to get creative. And that's a hard thing to say to like a new partner that you don't know and that you don't have like a warmth built up with. But that's the truth. So on the agenda, I don't know that I'm sharing my screen anymore. On the like several page agenda that we would, pardon?
You're good. You're screen there.
Oh, okay. I kind of just like wrote it out here. So this is what I would say, you know, I know it's hard to say to a company, especially if they're new or partner, but like our manufacturers talk a lot about their very real struggles and challenges to recruit a younger generation. I don't know how else you do that if you don't let them in and you don't show them what you do. It's the best way to do it. That first video about teenagers learn from experience, they can't get an experience in manufacturing without manufacturers. And so we know there are companies doing it. And I know that's a hard thing to say to people. And I'm sure it's a hard thing on their end to do. And I honor that. I'm not being dismissive of it, but insurance companies do it. So people got to figure it out. We can only do so much on our end as educators, and they've got to figure that part out.
That's the same spot we're in. Thank you.
Yep. Laura, I know that IMA sent out a survey that ISBE designed to get at that information that you're asking about. So I think that's coming soon. I mean, Perfection Servo is a company in Batavia that hosts high school interns. I can just put some of our partners in here. Smith & Richardson does. UMG Del Medico is going to this summer. I mean, so Mary and Josie and I were just earlier this week at a company called Rev Aviation here in the city of Aurora at the airport. The FAA lets kids as young as 16 engage in aircraft maintenance apprenticeships. I just can't believe that it's more complicated for manufacturers than it is for the FAA. I mean, they're letting 16 and 17-year-olds work on, you know, aircraft engines in an apprenticeship role. I'm not saying they're, you know, not guided by a journeyman worker. You can't tell me that it's harder for manufacturers. I mean, the planes fly in the air, you know, so.
And there was a question too from Tammy, the piece about like districts taking liability, but I think the issue tends to come to who's paying, right? Because like the person who's paying will take the liability. So there can be models where if you're school or organization, you have a foundation or another kind of intermediary who could be your payment person, like for the students. If you're having issues with companies, that could kind of support that process if they really are still going through a challenge and maybe they're looking at new insurance, right? But for the time being, they're not doing it. So there's different intermediaries and models you can do there, but it tends to come down to the payment, right? Whoever someone's receiving their paycheck through, that person would tend to take on the liability.
And I know Dawn and I have briefly talked as she's become new to her role at GCamp about some additional funding GCamp is going to be seeking in the next several years. And that could be a possibility for them as a professional organization of sponsors and members. I mean, you know, is there a way manufacturers that are part of local, you know, they've got the IMA, the state agency, but, you know, part of local initiatives, is there a way to pool that risk and reduce everyone's cost? I don't know. And I can't figure that out for manufacturers. Like they've got to do that work. You know, we've got to do the work of getting our kids prepared to be successful in an internship and setting up the school day and the school structure to give them the opportunities to do that. Like that's our work. You know, the insurance stuff in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but in my mind, it's the manufacturer's work or whoever is hosting. It doesn't have to be manufacturers, the aviation people, the healthcare people, the restaurant people. So, but that's just my editorial comments today.
Well, we appreciate that. Lots of love and shout outs here in the chat. I'm sure you're getting emails and all kinds of things.
Yeah. We're happy to do that. And if you want the employer, if you want a business partner perspective, I think Dawn would be happy to kind of talk on that end. And if you have any business partners, you know, that want to get connected with some of Dawn's sponsors and members, I think she would be happy to do that too. And I know she put her contact in the chat too.
We're going to continue to promote it because this really is a very valuable model that you can do to engage your employers and your educators, everybody all in the room together. So just thank you so much again, Cassie and Mary and Josie and Don, and I'm trying to look at all who's on here, but just a fabulous, fabulous, really intentional team. So thank you so much again for everything today.